Human interactions with the natural environment have always been about harnessing and cherishing resources, some of them for necessity, while others for luxury. Yet even the luxury goods often lead us to a story of necessity for those who struggle tirelessly to gather these resources. Our fascination with gemstones is emblematic of a human desire to possess what we perceive to be precious. Yet often in our modern lives, we are so far removed from the origin of our possessions that we do not appreciate their true costs and benefits. Emeralds have for millennia been considered among the most precious of gems. Their green brilliance has inspired religious devotion, sceptered splendor, and even literary icons such as the Emerald City of Oz. Our narrative is also about an Emerald City, an ambivalent place of great ambition and anxiety, where many dreams are realized while others are dashed. Campos Verde, the Green Camp in Portuguese, is Brazil's city of emeralds. Before 1981, this city did not exist on the map. There was a cattle farm in the area that is quite typical of this part of Brazil's vast interior. The state of Goiás is often referred to as Brazil's outback, with its own assemblage of cowboys on horses. A farming road was being constructed here in April of 1981, when construction workers discovered scattered green crystals in their excavation. What followed was the biggest emerald rush that Brazil had seen in ages. Within months, the population of the area soared to 20,000 as garimpeiros, or small-scale itinerant miners, flocked to the area. More than 20 years later, the demographics of Campos Verde have stabilized, and the settlement looks like most small towns in Brazil, except for a few exceptional commercial venues. After all, how could we be in a mining town and not have an explosives depot? Indeed, as the surface deposits for emeralds were gradually depleted, deeper mines had to be dug, requiring explosives. We proceeded to visit the area where the first emeralds were discovered. There is still a large depression in the land, and occasional garimpeiros still scour the surrounding pits for any vestiges of fortune. The young mayor of Campos Verde also accompanied us on this tour. However, many of the mining pits here are now abandoned, often without any safeguards to prevent the careless wanderer from falling into these chasms. Some of the pits have filled with water and leaf debris that can lead many roaming cattle to their untimely demise. Remediation of old mining sites continue to be the most formidable challenge to mining ventures great and small. However, we must not despair so easily. There are indeed more responsible ways to find minerals, and Campos Verde is beginning to exemplify some positive practices. The challenge to any modern mining activity begins with the exploration phase. In order to avoid the boom and bust of mineral rushes, as well as random rumor digging, good exploration practices need to be made accessible to miners. This often involves geological drilling for core samples, such as these. After testing these samples, it is possible to determine the probability of an emerald deposit. Emeralds are a special crystalline form of beryllium aluminum silicates with small quantities of the metals chromium or vanadium that give them their distinctive coloration. A local town gallery shows the rock types in proximity to an emerald deposit to illustrate the importance of knowing where to dig. Emeralds in Brazil are embedded in schists that are metamorphic rocks. Crystalline anomalies in schists are indicative of emerald presence nearby. And if you're lucky, you just might find that crystal you are looking for nested somewhere in that rocky mass. We proceeded to a modern emerald mine in Campos Verde to get a first-hand taste for where these treasures come from. While older mining shafts were merely tunnels or timber-supported pits, newer mining shafts are constructed with concrete and can be as deep as 500 feet. The descent down to the ore body was still using a traditional saddle-styled elevator in which two miners precariously and awkwardly positioned themselves. As I descended down to the depths of the mine, the amount of water dripping around me was most noticeable. Indeed, the miners here work constantly against the rising tide of groundwater. Powerful pumps are required to dewater the mining chamber for mining. The miners have to carefully negotiate the narrow tunnels and overhanging electric cables, not to mention occasional chasms and deeper shafts to reach the precious ore. This miner proudly showed me an emerald vein immersed in groundwater that he was hoping to mine soon thereafter. The water that is such a problem beneath the surface is an essential feature of mineral processing on the surface. Once the ore has been crushed and processed, there is a need to wash out the silt and waste rock. The wastewater can present environmental challenges which have been noticed and addressed by this mine owner. We were proudly shown an innovative washing basin which allows for the silt to be collected before the runoff is discharged. In another mine nearby with older style washing basins, we saw what impact uncontrolled runoff can have on local ecosystems. The fine silt and sediment can clog fish gills and lead to the demise of fisheries. While chemical pollution is less of a problem, there are certain resins also used to fill emerald cracks and fuel oils for pumps and other machinery that can lead to some organic pollution. This stream bed shows the impact of the siltation on the environment. Nearby, we also saw a more pristine stream to provide a comparative perspective. Water is also an important resource for the artisanal miners who try to work with whatever waste is left when the large mining trucks come and take their loads. Washing the material in small sieves, they try to find whatever remnants of the ore might be left. Many of these gem seekers are older women who also find their way to the market later on. The market is also quite a spectacle. There are piles of emeralds of various qualities. Buyers from Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo routinely come to choose what is most profitable. There are even buyers from as far off as India, where gem jewelry is very lucrative for cultural reasons. The Indian buyers will even buy the poorer quality emeralds, given the volume of their business. We were escorted by a police officer along the way. Crime is often a concern in mining communities. There can also be other hazards, such as fire, as many miners try to clear brush for digging holes. Market towns can be a place of immense energy and vitality. We went to a larger market town for emeralds in the state of Bahia, where an exhibition was underway to welcome a World Bank delegation. The mayor of the town showed the delegates that apart from emeralds, there were also numerous other locally produced consumer items, including handicrafts and confectionery. Some handicrafts were particularly innovative, such as this embroidered handbag made from the flip tops of soda cans. This town is also close to the largest underground cave system in Brazil, which can provide an alternative tourist economy. Even the waste rock from the mining areas is now being put to use by numerous mining ventures. Back at Campos Verde, our host told us about a cooperative of small miners that was attempting to provide training and competitive advantages for the miners. Additionally, he has started a program to train artisans in crafting sculptures from waste rock and semi-precious stones. There is a growing market for such art, and we were treated to some of the most recent artistic creations. Other mines are trying to harness supplemental ores from the emerald deposits, such as this molybdenum operation that has been developing alongside the emerald mining. Molybdenum is an important metal used in the construction sector, but it can also be toxic at small quantities to livestock, causing a disease called molybdenosis. There are, however, conservation groups and other non-governmental organizations that are active even in such remote areas to focus attention on these concerns. Religious groups have also been involved in advocating for greater responsibility of mining, though some biblical quotations on walls nearby also remind us of the importance of the mineral industry historically. Near one of the mines, we also see signs of other promising sectors as well. Cashew fruits and other exotic agricultural produce could also be a supplemental source of livelihoods for these communities. However, mining does initially provide a more attractive way to get wealthy urban investors to these areas. A German investor is visiting Campos Verde to consider investments. The key question remains as to what amount of this wealth actually stays in the communities. The local mine owner seems to have a relatively comfortable lifestyle, but the road to riches can be more rocky for the itinerant miner. Occupational conditions compared to the hazardous mines of yesteryears are improving with safety equipment available to many miners, though most of the garimperos are not so lucky. Unlike many of the mining towns of the past that were dominated by men living away from their families, most emerald mining areas in Brazil now have families living with the miners. Even the youngest members of these towns are, however, entranced by gems and their economic promise. However, the infrastructure in these towns is sadly lacking, considering the wealth that is emanating from them. The residents nevertheless continue to enjoy the simple pleasures of a good soccer game or simply a shower at the local tube well. Moving up the supply chain for jewelry, there are also some gem cutting facilities in nearby towns, which can provide a career trajectory for some miners. Fashioning the perfect gem is a complex craft, as well as an art, that requires years of training. Efforts are being made to train communities in how to develop this sector as well, such as what was done in Thailand, where heat treatment continues to draw ruby merchants from around the world, despite the closure of most ruby mines in the area. Historically, many of the traders in this sector have been Lebanese or South Asians, but efforts are also being made to develop indigenous competitors who can take their gems to shows worldwide for exhibitions. At the end of the day, what is most important is providing sustainable livelihoods for communities in rural areas. Brazil is one of the most urbanized countries, with immense inequality, and reducing rampant migration from rural areas to the squalid slums or favelas in the large cities is critically important. However, since minerals are an obsolescent sector by their very nature, the revenues from mining must be wisely invested in alternative development to prevent the formation of proverbial ghost towns across the landscape. Our impulse for treasure will continue to provide livelihoods for many miners, such as those in Campos Verde. Synthetic stones do not seem to have the allure of natural gems, largely because of the mystique that comes from having a natural stone from exotic depths. However, getting jewelers and consumers to be more aware of the source and true human cost of our desires is also essential. The joy and wealth that such desire generates must indeed be shared by all those who strive so tirelessly to bring that sparkle to our lives.
Para Dieu.